This week on The Delaware Way, Ken Simpler is running for re-election for state treasurer. Find out what he thinks of his opponent and the move to get rid of plastic straws. This is The Delaware Way. Welcome to The Delaware Way. I'm Larry Menti. Delaware has an important midterm election coming up. We just had the primaries. It was a fascinating primary, however, one of the least fascinating races, because there were no challengers, was for treasurer. And so I'd like to congratulate Treasurer Ken Simpler in your win in the primary.
Been my favorite race to date, Larry.
It was nice that you didn't have to run against anybody.
It was nice because I really do have an important job working for the people of Delaware right now. And in all candor, July and August, right when the legislature adjourns, is our key strategic planning time. So it's very hard as an incumbent to try to get out and meet as many people as you might like to, you know, in this retail politics season of the summertime, and also get the job done for the people of Delaware.
Well, I want to talk about the strategic planning in a second. I want to stay with politics for a second because we're just in the wake of the primaries. It's interesting that the Democrats didn't run more people against you. That was fascinating to me because you are the top Republican in the state. And I would think that you'd have more challengers, but instead you had one person running for the Democrats. She was unopposed. Her name's Colleen Davis. She's not a politician. And frankly, a lot of people don't know about her. What do you know of Colleen Davis?
You know, I don't know much more than what she's put out on her website. We haven't had the chance to really have a sit down because neither one of us had a primary. I haven't seen her perform and talk about what issues she's passionate about. I do know her background is very different than mine, so I'm interested to see what she brings to the table. I mean, I ran 4 years ago on a simple platform. I spent my whole life as a financial professional, CFO, investment manager. That's what I've done for a lifetime, and I believe strongly that a well-managed state, fiscally speaking, is going to be an advantage for Delawareans. She comes from a very different background. She's a physician's assistant. She's been in the medical field. I'm not sure what is motivating her campaign for state treasurer, but we'll certainly get a chance to talk about that with Delawareans over the next 7 weeks.
You sound like you might be saying she's not qualified to run for state treasurer.
You know, I ran the first time for state treasurer for one very specific reason. The gentleman who held the office had no financial background. He was an attorney. He was an intelligent person. I'm not disparaging his background, but when you talk about the operations of the state treasurer's office, you're talking about how do we move $10 billion around the state and allow the state to transact? How do we manage a $2 billion debt portfolio? How do we manage $2 billion of cash? How do we manage $2 billion of supplemental savings? Those are real, you know, meaningful programs and systems that the state of Delaware relies on to provide everything we think about: education, healthcare, roads, infrastructure. The central systems don't work, the whole state doesn't work. And I just felt like that job is big enough that it deserves someone with true financial expertise. And there's sort of a myth, I think, that people think, oh, well, we got all these civil servants and a deep bureaucracy and they take care of everything. Nothing could be further from the truth in the 4 years I've been there. Leadership absolutely matters. And in many cases, especially our small independently elected branches, are not staffed necessarily as well as they should be. And I'm the only person in the treasurer's office with any asset management experience. I'm the only person in the treasurer's office who's ever been the chief financial officer of an organization.
Whose fault is that? I mean, could you not hire people?
You know, the people I have are good, hardworking people. I will tell you, from my private sector background, some of the jobs in my office that are being done by folks, their salaries would be multiples of what they are.
So it's difficult to attract people to work in your office.
You know, let's face it, I managed a global investment portfolio. I was lucky enough to have some success that enabled me to come back and, frankly, as a Delawarean, give back in the way that I feel my skills can be most valuable to the people of Delaware. It is really, if you were to tell me, Ken, go out and hire a portfolio manager for the state of Delaware, I can't. I have to hire contractors. We have to contract that business out. So, you know, we pay fees, we engage people, but that's different when a consultant's working for you, when an outside vendor is working for you. It's not the same as having someone who is there because they're working for you as Delawareans, right? And so it does. After 4 years on the job, I feel more passionate than ever about the scope of what I've been able to engage with the current administration, with the past administration, with members of the General Assembly, and I'm super optimistic about the way we're pushing this whole financial model forward for the state. But it's slow, unsteady work, and hence, you know, I would be remiss if I didn't say, yeah, if I was going to be succeeded by someone, I would like to think they have the same passion for finance and the background to really add value to this system.
It seems to me, in a midterm election, when you're a Republican running in a blue state, when there's this talk of a blue wave, and you have a president that may not be popular in Delaware, that they do bring up one important issue, and that is, as much as you say you're bipartisan, that they claim you were a big supporter of Donald Trump.
Well, I can't control if there's a blue wave. There's not much I can do about that, Larry. I can't stand in front of I grew up at Rehoboth Beach, right? I can't stand in front of a tsunami and expect it to stop for me. All I can do is comport myself in a way that I think Delawareans expect the state treasurer to comport himself. And in that vein, yeah, I didn't come to Dover to fight with anyone. I came to Dover to work with everyone, because the nice thing about finance is it's a consensus issue. Not only is it a fiscal reality that we have to get better, it's a consensus political issue. There is not a Democrat in the state of Delaware who wants a large government that's incompetent. And there is not a conservative in Delaware who wants a small government that's ineffective. Effectiveness, value. Those are things we can all come together on. And the financial work that I do is at the center of that.
Let me rephrase the question. Has Donald Trump's policy, has the economy booming the way it is, have they had a negative or a positive effect on Delaware? Specifically his policies, not just the economy, but
I think that, presidents tend to get either too much or too little credit for what's happening at the macro level. What we do know in Delaware is Delaware's economy tends to follow the national economy. Unsurprisingly. There might be a lag, there might be whatever, but we tend to follow the national numbers. If you follow just the national numbers, then yes, the trends are very positive for Delaware, and we see that in our job. Unemployment remains very, very low. Wages are starting to grow in Delaware. Personal incomes growth last fiscal year was enormous because the economy is booming. Tax relief and deregulation, I hear from small businesses, have helped them take risk.
So his policies have helped in Delaware?
I would say that from an economic standpoint, the country and the economy are moving in a very positive direction for the Delawareans. Now, does that mean that we've solved all the problems that I came here to solve? No. The reality is, I got here before Donald Trump. I don't know if I'll be here after Donald Trump, but the problems we have in Delaware are about our 40-year-old fiscal architecture. It has nothing to do with national politics. Most of what we do in Delaware is a state government, roads and infrastructure, having safe communities, procuring health care, K through 12 education. We do that as a state. There might be some implications from the national government, but if there's one thing that I've tried to emphasize is we're a sovereign state.
When we
need to behave like a sovereign state.
Let's talk about that. We'll talk about policy. We'll get off politics when we continue our conversation with Delaware Treasurer Ken Simpler when the Delaware Way continues after this.